go the bull.
Coming up on 1 year ago, I headed out to the middle of Kansas to interview another bison producer by the name of Soldier Creek Bison. And I did a small video on them, just kind of featuring their ranch. And one thing led to another and we got talking. We decided to take on all the heifer calves that Soldier Creek was going to have this year. There was a lot of anticipation almost a year ago till now, and the anticipation was mainly surrounding the buffalo corralling. How many of these heifers were going to be born? Jamin had a rough count of how many calves he had out in the field, but he didn't know how many were bulls and how many were heifers. So we weren't going to know until we ran all of those animals through that squeeze chute and really double checked and be able to separate them into separate pens. And then we would know how many animals are coming onto our ranch from Soldier Creek's ranch. And that long anticipated day was today. We got to go out there and work all of those animals. There were well over 100 of these buffalo or bison, however you want to say it. I had the pleasure of taking my oldest daughter out there with me. She's really had the drive and willpower and desire to be able to do what we're doing out here. She wants to be able to raise buffalo also. She's a little young and she still has some time to think about what she wants to do in the future. So I want to be able to educate her as much as I can when she's young, and then she can make that decision whether she wants to continue down the road. So she was able to come out there with me and learn a few things about working buffalo. So we headed out to the middle of Kansas once again. I got out there early before anyone else had arrived. When we pulled up the drive, Jamin was at the corral getting everything prepped for the busy day ahead.
It's not the first one, but it's the second one, so we're a little bit more relaxed this time than we were last time. We've got everything prepared, we're ready to go, and we're surrounded by good people. So,
How many people you got coming out today?
somewhere between 10 and 12, but you never know. You know, they bring their friends or, you know, people word of mouth. I'm the buffalo guy around here, and they know this is the roundup. So, yeah, I mean, the big anxiety, of course, is getting the buffalo in the corral. If you can get them in the corral, you're halfway there. So we have them in the corral. You know, fingers crossed everything else goes smooth. My methodology is that in order to get to the next paddock, they have to go through this corral. So normally this corral gate on the west is open. And so they know that when they run through here, I usually have range cubes, something they normally don't get. So when they run in, they know they're gonna get range cubes and they know they can go right out this back gate to this west paddock here. But on corral time, all you do is just lock that gate. They run in and you shut the gate behind them. Now, it doesn't always go that smooth, but that's the general idea, is to get them just to kind of be comfortable with going through the corral system. And that makes roundup a whole lot easier. For me, corralling has always been the most difficult because there's just so many unknowns. But as long as you can kind of funnel them, you have the right system, you work with their behavior, you can usually get them in. They should be somewhere just under 100 or around 100, if calves and adults.
How long do you think it takes?
I'm guessing between 3 and 4 hours, but don't jinx us.
Soon after we got there, everyone else started pulling up also.
Did y'all come down before Thanksgiving?
Shut it. Once you get 1 or 2 in here, shut it.
Okay.
There were somewhere around 13, 14, or 15 of us out there, and I only knew Jamin, so he introduced me to the rest of his family, his crew, the vet, and there was another bison producer who's not too far away from Soldier Creek also, and he was a tremendous help. Everyone was. Everyone really jumped in and pitched in where they needed to be.
And then put a slam latch here, so that, because before the last guy had to run up and close it and then bolt latch it shut. And so that's pretty intimidating with some buffalo running back at you. Now they can just throw it and it'll slam shut. Curious to see if these improvements work.
So I guess you could say this is the calm before the storm. It's a little brisk out and everybody's a little bit anxious. Jamin positioned himself up on, you could say, the business end of the working operation. He put himself on the squeeze chute, and the other gentleman who raises buffalo also, he was helping Jamin out. You had people on the gates opening and closing the slide mechanisms that allow the buffalo to lead up to the squeeze chute. There were also guys out in the large catch pen area to be able to walk on foot and separate those family groups into the next section of the corral so that you can bring them in to basically kind of like a funnel, smaller and smaller and smaller sections until you get to the squeeze chute where it's just one animal. The day started out pretty well. Everyone was starting to get comfortable on the position that they were filling. So if they were opening and closing a slide gate, it was a matter of knowing when to open that gate, when to shut it, and to be able to cut the animal behind that buffalo off and to be able to separate them. The idea was one buffalo per pin. Everyone up at the squeeze chute started getting into a rhythm also. They needed to be ear tagged. Some of the animals needed to be preg checked.
Yeah, she's 90 days.
Nice. Okay, right down that she's pregnant. What are we getting the weight at?
This is all part of being a great steward and a great manager of raising this great American icon.
Okay, we're good.
You might want
I
to keep an eye
rotational
on.
graze them.
Oh yeah. See, I had that issue this year.
Get them headed and get right behind.
Whenever I go out and work bison, it seems to be that those people who want to work bison also, they seem to be my kind of folks. They are either people that are just curious and they really want to see what this really looks like of actually corralling and running animals through certain systems and getting them up to the squeeze chute, or it's those people that want to really help and I love that type of person and personality also. And then there is the other group, that is the buffalo producer themselves, and they are enamored with this animal just like I am. There's all sorts of different groups that come out and work buffalo. I love being able to be out there with such a like-minded crew. It seems to be that everyone who raises buffalo, their corral is set up just a little bit different than the next person's corral. The way Soldier Creek's corral works is there's a main open area. You'll have a couple guys inside that open area creating pressure on the buffalo to get them to move where they need them to go. They want the animals to curve around that structure into the next smaller pen, but they don't obviously want all the animals to go at once. And by having a couple people in there and giving pressure, you'll have the entire group start to curve around the corner of that open area. The lead animals will go around that corner, and then the idea is to have another person step up and try to create a gap to where the other buffalo want to go backwards and then the other ones want to go forwards. Ideally, you want to be able to peel off a family structure. Within the whole buffalo herd, there's a very intricate system. There's little family groups within that herd, and you really don't know what family groups are with what until they present themselves. And when the buffalo all run forward and you create that pressure, the ones that run back towards the main group and the ones that move forward with the animals that ran, could be 8, could be 10, could be 15 animals, somewhere in that range, there's a really good chance that those animals are in that family structure, or those animals are comfortable with the animals that they ran with. That is ideal, because that means when they go up into the lead-up pens, they hopefully, ideally, will be comfortable and cause less stress on them and less stress on the handler going up to the working area. So once they're in the first lead-up pen, there might be 10, there might be 15 animals in there. From there, the idea is to open a slide gate and hopefully only one animal runs in, and you can shut that gate before the next animal tries to run in after them. They will then open another slide gate to the next lead-up pen, and from there it follows the squeeze chute. At the squeeze chute, everything will be done to that specific animal, and it's all tailored for that animal. So if it's a calf, it might get wormed, vaccinated, ear tagged, be able to tell the sex of the animal if it's a bull calf or a heifer calf. And once they're done with that specific animal, they will release them into the alley. At the point they're in the alley, we have 5 options. The first option is to run into the first pen. That first pen is the pen where we are taking all those animals home. Those are all heifer calves. And that's the pen, I gotta be honest, I was watching the most today. The second pen and the third pen, Jamin was making that call whether or not the bull calves would go in there or whether or not the other animals would go into the third pen. The fourth option was to run the animals straight back out onto pasture. So the animals that got released onto the pasture, those were the animals that Soldier Creek wants to hang around for the next year. The fifth option, I gotta be honest, reminded me a little bit of Monopoly, where you got that card and it told you you had to go all the way back to the beginning.
Are we ready?
The ideal working day for buffalo is a day that doesn't have any drama in it. But unfortunately, today was not one of those days. We had a couple close calls. Everyone did a really tremendous job today, but there were some instances that got a little bit hairy. Fortunately, no one was injured, and there was a lot that was learned from certain mistakes. Some were mistakes, and some things just happen when you work buffalo.
Cut it out?
Yeah.
Cut it out.
At one point, a cow got released from the squeeze chute. Jamin went to go chase her down the alley to the next pen, and he turned on him and fortunately was only bluffing. And what I would say as the most talked about at the end of the day was one of Jamin's neighbors who was working the animals, getting them up to the lead-up pen, and a cow really didn't like him too much. She decided she wasn't going in the sorting pen, so she turned around and wanted to head back to the buffalo. Well, unfortunately, Jamin's neighbor was in between her and the other buffalo. She charged. He was able to get out of the way, but stumbled in so doing, and she ran very close to him, too close for comfort, and I would imagine he would say the same.
Let's go to the bull.
Wait up, guys. Wait till the others get here. Frank just about got 8. Hey, got done camera too, Frank.
After every buffalo or bison corralling and roundup I've ever been on, there's always things that you can learn from and improve on the next years. This was no exception, and Jamin walked away with some things that he could improve on and also things that he wants to continue with. You know, the things that got changed from last year to this year, whether those things worked or not, they were evaluated. And I'll say the one piece of information that I really wanted to know for not only ourselves, but for you guys, was how many heifer calves did Jamin have? How many of those animals were going to be coming out to our ranch next week? I guess you're just gonna have to tune in next week to find out. Thank you for following our journey. We'll see you next week.